So I'm going to be honest, guys, I'm really getting tired of having to explain to you that it's just a video when I don't have a favorite, and I love you all the same. Oh, sorry I didn't see you there. As you can see, we're talking about protein powders today. Go ahead and roll that title sequence. What's going on, meatheads, and welcome back to the Bobby Meat Sauce YouTube channel. So, as you saw, this whole video is going to be about protein powders and protein supplements. So I wanted to make a whole video focusing on protein powders because I feel like I really undersold their benefits in my videos, the basics of bodybuilding supplements. So in this video, we're going to break down the history of protein powders, specifically with whey. We're also going to cover the usages and benefits and how protein powders and protein supplements in general can help us build muscle. So before we even dive into what a protein powder is or its history, we should probably understand what whey is, because I'm pretty sure whenever I first started taking a whey protein powder, I asked zero questions other than, hey bro, is this going to give me swole? And the dude at GNC said, dude, it's going to get you yoked. And so then I bought it. But as far as I know, there isn't anywhere in nature where there's guys who are shooting out whey protein. So let's address what it even is. So whey is actually a byproduct of the cheese making process. And whenever you make cheese, the byproduct is whey and curds, and whey is the liquid part that you have left over. And you're probably saying to yourself, but Bobby Meat Sauce, whenever I buy whey, it's in a powder. Well, hold your horses, nerd, I'm going to get there. So whey is pretty much utilized as a liquid up until 1930, whenever we have the first powdered form, and they are able to break it down that way. And you really don't even see it being broken down to a point where people can utilize it and dissolve it into a protein powder until about 1970. So we're getting a little bit ahead of ourselves, so let's backtrack. So whey has actually been utilized by people as a supplement and as a health product since the 400 BCs, that is. So at this time, it wasn't really being utilized as a muscle builder. It was actually being utilized as an immune booster and as a health tonic. So Hippocrates, the father of medicine, was prescribing the liquid whey to his patients to cure illnesses and diseases, alongside with exercise and diet regimens. And this practice was pretty much carried up the whole way through the Romans and through the Middle Ages, and it's pretty much seen being used in that capacity this entire time. So we don't really see it change until we get to about 16 or 1700, and it's in the fact that it's still being used as a health tonic, but it really explodes the whole way through Europe. And there's two schools of thought about how this works. And the first is that the Swiss kind of just borrowed the idea from the Italians and from its roots in Rome, and they just take the idea and run with it. The other of which is more folklorish and urban legendy, and that is that the Swiss farmers were slopping their piglets with whey, and they were slopping it with other various things, and they noticed that the piglets that were being fed the whey were thriving and they were healthier than the other piglets. So they started eating it themselves and drinking the whey, and they noticed that they were a lot healthier, and they were noticing the health benefits. So this was almost a renaissance, if you will, for the benefits of whey and the liquid whey, and how it can help people with their general health. So it was so popular in Switzerland and it exploded so much that people were actually traveling, nobles and aristocrats were traveling the whole way across Europe to treat their illnesses and their diseases with whey. And it became so popular in general around Europe that they just opened up health spas all over Europe where people were treating illnesses and diseases with whey, and they were using it for preventative health care, really. So this practice pretty much travels and continues the whole way up through around World War II, and it's so popular even that there are what they called whey houses. There's an account in the 1700s in London where people go to a whey house and they enjoy whey as a fashionable beverage, as a fashionable treat. They enjoy whey porridge and whey beverages, kind of similar to the idea of going to a smoothie bar and enjoying a juice because it's fashionable and it's healthy. So these sorts of things really continue the whole way up until, like I said, World War II, and we don't really see it being used for anything but a health tonic and being used for its health benefits really until the 90s. Now, this isn't to say that there aren't attempts at protein powders and protein supplements. Actually, the earliest protein supplement is made in 1900 by the father of bodybuilding, the first physical culturist, Eugene Sandow. So Sandow made a thing called plasmon. People don't really know what it was. Experts speculate that it was some sort of mixture of egg and whey, and it was some sort of biscuit that he claimed that the German soldiers could survive off of in the field for weeks at a time, but no one really knows for sure what it was. And he also marketed a muscle building cocoa powder in the mid 1910s. We don't know a whole lot about it other than the fact that it didn't do that well. So really the first time we see a protein powder do well and sell and be marketable is around 1950. So in 1950, a man named Irving Johnson is marketing his product, High Protein Food, in Health and Strength magazine that is owned by Bob Hoffman. And if you don't know who Bob Hoffman is, he was pretty much, think of your favorite Instagram fitness influencer, multiply him by 1,000. That was Bob Hoffman. He owned York Barbell, Health and Strength magazine. He was the big time, okay? And Hoffman wasn't really a big advocate of supplements and of protein powders and taking vitamins. He figured you could get everything that you needed from nature, from whole foods. And he pretty much believed this until he saw how many jars and tubs of protein and how much high protein food Johnson was selling. So whenever he sees this, and some people claim that he saw the before and after pictures that Johnson was advertising with, but we'll leave that up for you to decide. So this advertisement goes along for about 2 years, and then Hoffman decides that he's going to make his own and pretty much rip off the whole idea. And the problem is that his powder wasn't nearly as meticulously formulated as Johnson's. And I'm going to read you an excerpt of the process that he claims it was made with. The production of a miracle food such as high protein, and it's spelled high protein, Protein, so he ripped off the name too. Of high protein is not a hit or miss affair. A world famous food research laboratory is put to work. There are chemists and the doctors who are part of the organization and work out the product. They profit by their years of study, experience, and research, and it goes on and on and on. He claims it is this giant breakthrough in scientific research, when in actuality, people that worked for Hoffman said that he ordered soy flour and Hershey's chocolate and mixed all the ingredients up in his warehouse with a kayak paddle. So it's not nearly as good as he was claiming it to be, and it gave people gym clearing gas and gave them hives, and it was terrible and people hated it, and it really didn't do that well. So we don't see a big time protein powder and anything that's effective come along until about 1965, whenever Johnson comes back under the new name Radio H. Blair, selling Blair's protein powder. And this is a mix of egg proteins and non-fat dry milk powder with no whey. It's like sodium caseinate, calcium caseinate, because whey isn't broken down into a dissolvable form until 1970. And even then isn't utilized for protein powders until a couple of decades later. So Blair's protein powder is pretty much the gold standard of protein powders the whole way up until the 80s. And I mean, it had its kinks. It didn't mix all that well as did most of the other supplements at that time. They didn't mix very well. Was still giving people gas because it included the lactose. So if you were lactose intolerant this time, you were SOL. And these sort of things were pretty much the norm until about 1990. And in the 90s, you see things come out like MedRx releases a whey protein, EAS releases a whey protein, and people like it a lot better. It works a lot better. There's professional athletes that are advocating the use of it, and it just explodes. And from the 90s on, whey is pretty much the king of protein supplements, because there was plenty of research being done through the 70s and 80s, and still being done today. So it's pretty much the most researched form of protein, and the muscle building properties are well known by now. And it does really well through the 90s. But even then, the form of whey protein that we're seeing, that protein powders, really aren't still what we're seeing now. I would say the age of modern protein powders and protein supplements comes around about 2001, whenever Muscle Milk was released by Cytosport. And this is a big deal because they get rid of the lactose, so no more gas and nasty farts and all that crap that nobody wants. And it was shelf stable, it was ready to drink, so it was good tasting. It was a really big deal. And this is pretty much the gold standard in flavor until Optimum Nutrition takes over in the late 2000s. And that's pretty much bringing us to today. We've come a really long way, no pun intended. We have protein bars and cookies and snacks and all these things, and things taste good and they mix well, and it's great. And that's all fine and dandy, but you're probably watching this video to figure out if this is going to make you jacked and it's going to make you swollen, if it even works. So we're going to get into the science of why it works and how we can utilize it and the benefits. So let me put on my glasses. So why does this stuff work and how is it going to help you build muscle? So really, a protein supplement, we're looking to take one for a couple of different reasons, and first of which is to reach a protein quota. So by that I mean, let's say that I'm trying to hit 200 grams of protein per day, and with whole foods I can't do that. So let's say I need an extra 25 grams, then we can just take a protein supplement, a protein bar or something just to help us reach the quota. But it goes a little bit further than that. The different sorts of protein and different kinds, they have different digestion rates and bioavailabilities and absorption rates, different amounts of amino acids, different kinds of amino acids, different concentrations of BCAAs. So based on the time that we take a certain kind of protein or eat a certain kind of food can affect the way that we build muscle a little bit. Because remember this, whenever we're trying to build muscle, we are trying to stay anabolic as often as possible. And by that I mean, think of your body as a factory. In the factory, we want to keep the workers building muscle as often as possible. So we got to keep feeding the workers and fueling the fire with protein. And in different situations, we want different kinds of protein. So let me get into this. So as far as biological value goes, chicken has a biological value of 80 compared to whey, which has a biological value of 100, and whey isolate, which has a bioavailability of 160. So this means that whey and whey isolate are going to be utilized by your body more efficiently and more effectively than chicken. So when is that important? That's going to be important in times when you're very catabolic, like first thing in the morning and right after a workout. So first thing in the morning, think about it this way. We are fasted the whole way through the night for 7 or 8 hours. We have not fed the fire. So it is very, very important that we put fuel on the fire as soon as we get up. So we can get fuel on that fire and the muscle building process is kicked back into action. So we kick it back into action and then we feed it throughout the day moderately with whatever we can get, chicken or rice, or chicken, beef, whatever sorts of protein. It really doesn't matter until we do our workout. We do our workout and then we want to take whey again after the workout for a couple of reasons. A, the bioavailability, the absorption rate, the digestion rate, it goes into the system quick, but also it has more amino acids and it has more leucine. And leucine is the BCAA that is most touted to help build muscle. So it has more leucine than, say, chicken. So just all around, studies are showing that whey is going to be more efficient and more effective to help build muscle post-workout. So when does casein protein come in? Casein comes in right before bed, and this is because it is a slow digesting protein. So like I said, we want to stay anabolic as often as possible, and if we can eat before bed, that kind of keeps that 7 hours of fasting out of the way. But if we take a whey protein or something else, it's going to digest pretty quick, and we're not going to be able to effectively keep the fire burning and run it until we wake up and match it back up with the whey. So if we take casein right before bed, it's going to digest slowly throughout the night, and then when we get up, we can kick back in with the whey and continue the process. So this is just basically going to keep the muscle building fire, so to speak, burning all day and all night. And that's really the goal, like I said, to stay anabolic as often as possible. And it's not to say that we can't do this without supplements, without caseins and protein bars and whey and all these things. You can definitely do it. People have done it before. But it's going to make it more efficient and more effective, and it can help us build more muscle, studies are showing. So that's really it. That is the way that we can utilize different sorts of protein to help us build muscle and do it more efficiently. So I hope in this video that you learned a little bit about the history of whey and protein powders in general. I hope you learned a little bit about how we can keep the muscle building fire burning and use supplements efficiently to help us build more muscle. If you like this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up. If you want to see more like this in the future, be sure to subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. New videos coming as soon as I get to them. In the meantime, stay swole, everybody.